there's something interesting too about understanding the relationship you have with your MSP, who does what, how things are escalated, how work is assigned, how knowledge is spread, how knowledge is documented. There's that part of understanding the MSP side of it. And there's also the part, if you're a business leader, understanding how that works on your side too. Do you have one person in your business that always interfaces with the MSP, knows everything about them, is their advocate, and really that one person, bangs the drum for the MSP and is their champion? Or, as we would probably prefer, multiple people are tied into the MSP. The ownership has met with the MSP. The MSP meets with the board every once in a while to talk about budgeting and sort of state of the unions and things like that. How is your organization set up to work with MSP? What I see sometimes, it's not successful when you have your one person that's sort of the MSP person, that all the information goes back and forth to this one person, and that person leaves. The MSP has no advocate. Nobody knows how they work. Nobody knows the processes. Nobody knows, the people that work there. So understanding that from both ends is very, very important.
And I would also remind everyone that depending on the level of involvement that you have with your MSP, if you're getting security solutions to some degree, not the most complicated ones, but just kind of, more than just basic security solutions. If you're getting remote support services, you're getting networking and server management and strategy from your MSP, you should expect to spend anywhere between $125 and $175 per employee per month on that sort of service. So if you're like a 30-person company, you're going to spend, roughly $5,000 a month or a little bit more on MSP services. And if you're paying substantially less than that, if you're a 30-person organization and you're spending $2,000 a month on IT services and you're not happy, right? There's probably a reason for that. And so it'd be worth having a conversation with your current MSP. Like, if I spent more, would I get different solutions or services? And if they're like, no, you get everything, then you may want to find an MSP that might charge you appropriately, that has that sort of staff, that has those solutions, that is providing you best in breed software and partner escalations, right? Like, those are the things that you'll want to look at, getting that good advice from your customer success or VCIO person that you're working with on a day-to-day basis. Like, that's really an important part of maximizing spend, is like, how much should I be spending? Because a lot of people don't know. They're like,
we have a podcast on that
yeah,
side, you and Mark. It'll pop up in our social media every once in a while. It's a really good one. People really like it.
It's important to go through to just really understand like what you should be paying and why you're paying that money. But that comes back for bang for the buck, because we get it. They're small business owners, and Dan sees this frequently, right, with some of our clients, where they're too busy to meet, right?
Yeah.
So when that sort of thing happens, they're not really getting the most bang for the buck when it comes to what they're spending, right?
Right. Yeah. Like, say I have a client that consistently can't meet with me, or maybe Bo, who works for me on the team. My billable rate is not cheap if I was just to go out and consult. And if you have a scheduled weekly meeting with me for an hour and the client doesn't make that meeting, they're certainly not getting the value that is tied into me supporting their account. There was another interesting thing that I wanted to sort of circle back on that you just talked about back to the beginning of the conversation. We like to go in and say, look, between 125, 175, give or take either way, is a good price to estimate per user for MSP services. Well, if you look at that number for a 30-person organization, well, that's about the cost of a mid-level IT guy, and it scales really, really well. And so when it gets to that point of the discussion, I always like to raise my hand and say, okay, think about this for a second. Are you getting the value? Are you getting the bang for the buck? Are you getting somebody, getting this team of people with a procurement department and business analytics department and all these things that like somebody like we have? Are you getting Joe, the guy that has 2 network certs, right? That can manage 13 computers. It's a totally different thing. The value, the calorie dense value bang for the buck in something like us, if the client is taking advantage of it, you can't beat it.
No, I agree.